thing that's really concerning is a lot of drivers seem to think that since Travis got fired, which he didn't, that suddenly the rates are going to go back up. Upfront pricing is going to go away. There's going to be less drivers on the road so that the drivers that are on the road can make more money. Magically, with Travis out of the equation, Uber corporate is going to stop caring about their bottom line, and suddenly they're going to find a new love for drivers.
I don't know why everyone's so excited. I guess Uber is just a better company all of a sudden just because the CEO left. Yeah, Uber is just so much better. Like, believe me, drivers are going to make bank.
And as for what questions it raises for me, I mean, I think the biggest question is, Travis is a guy who has managed through very smart manipulation of the shares of the company to maintain a ton of control of this company. He certainly will stay on the board. I want to know what it really means that he's taking a leave. Is he actually going to be able to step back and let somebody else run the company?
Yeah, I guess I should probably address that. Hello everyone, this is Kevin, your entrepreneur, and it is time to discuss the dark side of Travis Kalanick leaving Uber. Not the dark side, I should say the reality. Because we've all been in a good mood these last few days. I've been in a especially good mood. I've been in such a good mood, I have been making little skits before my videos, even though they technically don't add any tangible informational value to what we're discussing. But it should be stated that some of us are probably getting a little too giddy because Travis Kalanick leaving Uber does not mean the end of our problems. As people have pointed out, Kalanick is not the sole person who makes decisions for Uber. Uber is a company. They have a board of directors. Kalanick did not always personally make some of the choices that we hate so much. Travis Kalanick himself was not always directly responsible for what happened at Uber. I mean, even though we complain about, 200 plus sexual assault allegations, Travis Kalanick himself was not directly involved in all of them, if any of them at all. When, Anthony Lewandowski had stolen documents from Waymo, Google subcompany, and formed Otto, Travis Kalanick didn't make him do that. I believe Kalanick coerced him into it, but that didn't mean he, told him to do that. For that matter, with the exception of the tipping option, things did not change overnight, and things are not going to change overnight. Uber still needs to find a CEO, a COO, a CFO. They basically need to find someone who's going to lead the company. And at the moment, no company is being led, which means some of the changes that have happened right now, maybe the board collectively decided that with Kalanick before he left. But the CEO doesn't make every personal decision. It's kind of like how the president of the United States, and another YouTuber pointed this out quite well. The president of the United States does not personally make every bad decision to come out of Congress. In fact, more often than not, if something gets to the president's desk that he has signed, guess what? It's because your congressman voted that through and he decided to sign it. He just agreed. So it's, that's not a truth a lot of us want to face. But, just because Kalanick himself is gone does not mean everything about Uber is going to change. And it doesn't mean it's going to change overnight. That's just simply not how it's going to work. Some people are, and I'm not saying they're wrong to feel this way. They actually probably have every right to feel this way. In fact, I see myself in other situations where I cynically have said, well, yeah, you fired the boss, but who cares? The company is still the company. They feel like, oh, Uber is just like all of a sudden a much better company because Kalanick is gone. Like, everything's going to change. All the drivers are going to be rich. And you know what? Yeah, I admit, drivers are not going to be rich because Kalanick's been fired. Uber is not instantly a better company because of it. Heck, in some ways, Uber might not even be that different of a company until they get the new CEO and COO in, and they start putting their mark on the company, and they start changing the culture. So it is true. Uber instantaneously did not change because Kalanick left. But here's the thing. I think we have all worked for jobs where there has been a boss we didn't like. I remember working for Fry's, and there was a boss there and I can't even remember. I think his name was Fong. Fong, yeah. And we hated him. On the days he worked, it was a very, very stressful environment. He was just a micromanager. He wasn't nice to you. You know, if you were like 1 minute late coming back from your 15-minute break, he would potentially write you up if you got caught. It's amazing how stressful it was working under him. Then one day, he was gone. He didn't get fired. He transferred to another store because he was moving. Now then, after he had left, there was like this huge relief. Like, oh my gosh, thank you. He's gone. He's gone. Thank you. Celebrate. Pop the blue Pepsi, which was a thing at the time. And, you know, we were just so happy he was gone. Was the company any better of a company because he was gone? Absolutely not. In fact, the company was such a crummy place that when I was unjustly fired, several months later, I ended up suing them and I won. And maybe I'll tell that story someday. It's kind of a fun one. But the thing was, so much of what was making the day-to-day grind so miserable was because Fong was at the company. Him being there caused massive stress and problems. So here's the thing. Uber is not a better company instantaneously just because Travis Kalanick is gone. But the thing is, as other people pointed out, one of the reasons we hate him so much is because his relationship with the drivers was never good. He, you know, every time he was talking about the company, he was talking about his bottom line, how successful he was. Whenever the situation came to the drivers, he seemed to almost like, you know, disregard them. They're okay, they're kind of this. And, you know, he'd almost kind of go like, when can the driverless cars get here so I can get rid of them? He did not endear us. And his choices made things very, very stressful. And he was always the one that would make these big announcements, like, you know, why are we cutting the rates? Oh, to stay competitive. Oh, to do this. Oh, to, and, you know, he ultimately approved of the bad decisions the board was making. If he didn't suggest it himself, he was approving bad decisions that the board was making. So he got the flack. But the fact that he is gone has lifted morale so much for us, and that's why we're so excited. And here's the thing, I want to also point this out. Because former board members are resigning left and right and we're getting like new management altogether, that is just as much reason to celebrate as Kalanick leaving. Let me explain something to you. Let me use an analogy from one of my favorite companies, Disney. Because when Michael Eisner was brought on board with Frank Wells in the 80s to run the Disney Corporation, they were on the verge of bankrupt, and those two made some very positive choices that saved the company and got like some of the greatest movies that they've made. They helped refurbish the theme parks. They really did help the company. But near the end of that run, Frank Wells had died in a helicopter crash, by the way. And after Frank Wells died, Eisner, I think he got a little out of control. He started making decisions that were not popular. And while he was not personally making every choice for the company, under him, you know, the theme park started to be ignored for refurbishments. We got the direct-to-video sequels. Pixar almost left Disney. You know, the Disney Channel went from being a celebrated family channel to being a tween network. And eventually the board kind of had to circumvent and force him out of the company because he was losing the company a lot of money, a lot of credibility. And what was most interesting was under Eisner's leadership, when Eisner came on board, they were almost bought out by a company and the assets were going to be sold, and the board did a last-minute Hail Mary thing and prevent that from happening. Under Eisner's leadership, Comcast almost bought Disney. And all they really wanted was their cable assets like ESPN and stuff, and would more than likely have sold out assets of the park to other people. So it's kind of interesting how when he was brought in, the company ended up being in the exact same state it was when he was hired to fix that problem. Now then, when he was ousted out, Bob Iger was replaced, and Bob Iger's management style was very, very different, and under him, Parks returned to profitability. They got refurbished again. Pixar stayed. And the difference was Eisner was all about saving a buck. He was all about saving a buck, and he didn't care how Disney made the money, as long as he made the money, and even if it came to the cost of the employees. Under Iger, and I have worked for Disney under an Iger-led administration, so to speak, Iger was like, we are here to make a profit, but let us not forget our history and employees that have got us here in the first place. And that is why, even though Iger has made some very questionable choices, in my opinion, recently, he still more or less values the employees. He still values the history of Disney. And that's why, under his leadership, even all these years later, Disney still thrives. Uber could not have thrived or survived that morale under Kalanick. So what I'm hoping for is the new CEO to learn from that situation. Yes, you aim for profits. Yes, you aim to be a sustainable business, but you don't do it at the cost of where you came from, and you don't do it at the cost of your employees. So while Uber may overnight not instantly be a better company because Kalanick is gone, morale is high, and that can count for a lot because he's gone. So anyway, what do you folks think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you believe the company will be better off with him gone? Do you think Uber's problems will get better with a new CEO? I would love to know. Excuse me. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy the videos I make, consider becoming a Patreon or buying some swag through the Great Media Universe store. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.